council has replaced many 2A zonings with a restrictive Zone 9. The environmental plan is aimed at reducing council's liability in areas where the land is steep, subject to soil erosion or flood prone. The plan was to have applied to a huge area of the coast, including Terrigal, Avoca, McMaster's and Foresters Beach. But after a vocal meeting, council has exempted many parts of the Booty Peninsula. One Pretty Beach ratepayer says council is against medium density housing and is unreasonably denying development opportunities.
We've had a surveyor over the block and it falls within council's policy, and council's officers have said that steepness is not a problem on this block. There appear to be anomalies. If you look at the map of the area, place on one side of a fence is Zone 9, the other side is 2A, and to me they don't look any different.
Gosford's mayor hasn't denied that council is trying to get around the state government's push for denser settlement.
We believe that there are areas where there should not be this urban consolidation, and furthermore the state government agrees with us.
Residents fear the value of their land will fall when buyers think twice about buying a block with the restricted development zoning. Mayor Dirk O'Connor says residents have the right to appeal.
Police say the shooting happened in the heart of the Gosford shopping centre just after 1 o'clock this morning. 43-year-old Robin West is alleged to have shot his victim in the hand with a .635 automatic pistol. Detectives investigating the shooting say the circumstances which led to the incident remain unclear, with investigations continuing. The 28-year-old victim was treated on the scene by ambulance officers before being transferred to Gosford Hospital.
It's not known how the utility and station wagon collided in suburban Adamstown. The accident investigation squad is making inquiries. The driver of the sedan, an 18-year-old woman from Charlestown, was trapped for about half an hour as police rescue worked to free her. She was taken to the John Hunter Hospital and is now in a serious but stable condition. The occupants of the truck, a couple and their small child from Armidale, were also treated for minor injuries in hospital. Local police have warned motorists to take care as the holiday season begins.
Well, people must be extremely careful of the bad conditions, and unfortunately some people drive when they're tired and too fast, and if people don't take a bit of care, more of these sort of instances are going to occur.
Meanwhile, police have released the names of the two people killed in yesterday's collision between a car and a truck at Denman. They were Charmaine Thirlwall, 52, from Sandy Hollow in the Upper Hunter, and her father-in-law, Arthur Victor Thirlwall of Gorokan on the Central Coast. 13-year-old Edward Thirlwall and his 15-year-old brother Henry survived the crash, but are being treated at the John Hunter Hospital. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The storm first hit Mardi west of Gosford and then rolled through to the coast, blanketing a wide area with hail and torrential rain. Wild wind squalls adding to the damage. Residents described the experience as terrifying. The State Emergency Service received 150 calls for help, and those calls were to keep emergency workers and fire brigade units on the job until after midnight. Some 2,000 homes were left without power, uprooted trees taking out power lines. Falling trees and broken branches also caused damage to several homes in the Wyong area. As well as damaging cars left out in the open, the hail smashed windows and blocked rain gutters, causing the rain that followed to flood the ceilings of businesses and homes. The carpet of hail, 30 centimetres deep in places, remained long after the storm had passed. At Wyong RSL Club, blocked gutters caused a portion of the ceiling to cave in, staff manning a bucket brigade in a bid to keep the water from causing serious damage. A little earlier, a windstorm also caused damage to a number of buildings in Maitland. A section of roof was ripped from the CES office in the city's main street, but damage has been confined to a meal room and the office will be back in business on Thursday. State emergency workers were called out to assist householders, mainly clearing fallen trees. One shop at Horseshoe Bend lost a large section of its roof. The veranda of another house collapsed. This morning, emergency workers were still on the job. The task of securing tarpaulins made difficult by the windy conditions.
There's a lot of people have found that they've got damage today they didn't have last night. A lot of loose iron on roofs, etc., that have come loose. So, yeah, they're keeping us busy this morning.
The windstorm lasted about 10 minutes. The clean-up will take a little longer. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
In just over 24 hours, Newcastle's foreshore will be transformed into a huge New Year's Eve party. While an admission fee will be charged to people wanting to watch the bands, the fireworks display is being staged for everyone. It's been brought forward to 9 o'clock instead of midnight.
It's for the benefit of families. Families are young children that can't stay up till midnight and to watch the fireworks.
Police are urging New Year's Eve revellers not to get carried away during the celebrations.
I'd like to say to people is go out and enjoy yourselves, but do it within the parameters of the law.
There'll be an increased presence of police in known trouble spots and on the roads. The statistics show people are heeding the warning not to drink and drive. Of the 5,000 people randomly breath tested in the Newcastle region since Christmas Eve, only 7 have been charged with being over the limit. Speeding, though, is still a problem. Further north, concerns have been raised about crowd control on New Year's Eve in the popular holiday township of Nelson Bay.
Obviously, the local police can't handle the influx of tourists.
However, Inspector Jenner from Maitland says there will be additional police in the area. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
There was no fuss as the band rocked up in separate cars for a pre-show rehearsal. Michael Hutchins arrived with supermodel girlfriend Helena Christensen.
It's the first show after a bit of Christmas off, New Year's Eve.
New bride Denny Hines travelled with the rest of the band and husband Kirk. Only a few hardcore fans were waiting to catch a glimpse of the rock world's superstars.
There's In Excess and then Daylight and then The Doors and then Daylight and then U2 and the rest. The extremes we go to, sleeping outside for nights and nights to get front row seats.
So it's going to be fun doing sort of bigger places again in Australia, and we're looking forward to it. A few surprises and that.
Yeah?
Yeah, or just, you know, some extra musicians and stuff, just trying to make it a bit different than last time.
Newcastle is the first venue on their 7-concert Australian tour. Before returning home, the group toured America, playing in unusual venues including aircraft hangars and warehouses to promote the Full Moon Dirty Hearts album. But band members assure fans they haven't forgotten to include a few tracks from the early days of their 16-year career. 10 albums to their credit and millions of fans across the world, In Excess won't be quitting while they're still riding the wave of success. The rest of Asia is the next target for their global conquest in February, followed by South America.
We still enjoy playing music together. We still, feel we're treading new ground all the time. I think as long as we keep doing that, we'll keep going.
Supercross, the version of motocross that takes the sport out of the countryside and puts it in front of spectators in stadiums, has been around in Australia for some 14 years now. And every season it seems the bikes just fly higher and higher over the man-made jumps. Big improvements to suspension, keeping riders in touch with their machines most of the time. After a first-round win in Victoria, Sydney's Kim Ashkenazi, nicknamed of course Kamikaze, checked out the Newcastle Motordrome course, keen on another victory.
Sure, I want to try and get as good a break at the start of the season as I can and win as many races to get a good points buffer before we go indoors.
While the record field of 230 covers several classes, there are still more than 60 chasing glory in the prestigious 250cc class, which is where the big boys play, even though some of the riders are just 16 years old. One who says he's been riding since he was 4 years old is Sean Carlos, one of the fastest of the visiting Americans.
I think I can beat pretty much anybody, when I'm on. But like I said, there's definitely guys here that can go fast, and it's definitely good competition.
The huge number of entries means there will be qualifying races on Saturday afternoon, so the gates open at 2 p.m. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Fire swept down a hill towards John and Clemence Tulloch's home last Friday afternoon.
When the fire started to come across the road, and it was entering the front gate, and I said to Pam, right, it's time to go.
The family had done all they could to protect the house from fire. Volunteers battled the blaze and miraculously the house was saved.
From the angle that we were at, we thought we had lost the house, and of course we had no idea where the men were because there was just so much flame.
The Tulloch vineyards also escaped with little damage. While residents in the Bulga area have lived with the threat of fire since Boxing Day, Controller Russell Kernutson says the danger to property and lives has eased.
After 2 weeks of consolidating around properties and putting in backburns, etc., we're in a much better position than we were when the fires first ignited.
The biggest concern is how to stop them from sweeping through National Park area. It seems the 5 fires may form one front. Controlled burning is taking place each evening. People are being warned about widowmakers, the blackened trees that fall after the fires have passed. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
It's become a familiar sight in city streets, bundles of papers and bottles ready to be collected for recycling. But the program was put under threat with scores of complaints to council that the recyclables weren't being collected on time.
A resident from Maryland rang me and said, look, the entire street is not presenting recyclable material anymore. It's going back into the bins. They're just fed up with it sitting out for days on end.
Charlie Pascoe was running the recycling contract, a job to cover some 48,000 households. The council originally took on the contractor for an 18-month deal, but late this afternoon, just 3 months into that contract, the council has decided to pull out.
It's quite obvious to everybody out there that the service was not good enough.
The contractor could not be contacted for comment. From Monday, council will collect the recyclables with council trucks on the normal garbage days. It's expected a new department will be created to handle the job. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Eleven young cyclists from the Hunter and the Central Coast are riding on this course to give them a winner's touch.
You've got to get that little extra edge, you know, all the stretching and the weight training and your nutrition, it all adds up.
They'll cover not just the physical aspects of cycling but also the psychology. 20 experts will be giving advice.
We're here to try and develop the local youngsters in the region to fulfil some of their goals and get them to state and national level and possibly onto the Olympics.
The Hunter Academy of Sport camp runs till Monday.
Newcastle's Lisa Ryan dominated the world of wave skiing in 1993. She successfully defended her state and Australian titles and travelled to South Africa to compete for the ultimate prize, a world crown. Rising from the losers' pool, Lisa won every sudden death heat to snare the world crown in dramatic fashion. Armidale athlete Sean Crichton had a phenomenal year, breaking the Australian 3,000 metre steeplechase record, which had stood for 22 years. He followed this with a brilliant stint overseas. After winning the Aussie title and representing his country at the World Cross Country Championships for the 4th year in a row, Sean beat the 1988 Olympic champion in France. Among some notable performances, he was 9th in the World Championship final, a fine achievement. Hockey player Stuart Deering, overlooked for the Barcelona Olympics as was Sean, has battled back to prove a point. In a concerted effort to improve, Stuart forced the selectors to take notice and was recalled to the Australian team that steamrolled everyone to win the Champions Trophy. Tomorrow night we take a look at another 3 finalists in the NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year Award. Nathan Thomas is another of the new breed of water polo players from Tamworth. Like Craig Miller, Nathan was also a member of the highly successful Australian men's water polo team that won a bronze medal at the World Championships. This effort is recognised as the greatest result ever achieved by a men's water polo team in any competition. Jason Stoltenberg has come back from a serious shoulder injury to steadily climb the world tennis rankings, breaking into the top 50 for the first time. With victories over Jim Courier and many other big names, Stoltenberg attracted the attention of Davis Cup selectors. He was instrumental in the Australians making the final and then was superb in that match against the Germans. The winner of this year's NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year Award will be announced during a live telecast on January 22nd. Paul Harrigan is one of the most recognised rugby league players in the world at the moment, and it was a big year for the Chief. He represented country in the annual clash with City Origin, was the player of the series in the State of Origin matches, and then ruffled the feathers of the Kiwis in the tests against New Zealand. Petria Thomas is only 17, and under the guidance of Stan Tilley, has emerged as one of the country's brightest swimming prospects. At the Pan Pacific Championships, Petria won silver and bronze medals in butterfly, and at the World Short Course Championships in Spain, she picked up silver in the 4x100 metres medley relay and a bronze in the 200 metre butterfly. Michael Eppelston is a young man in a hurry in the quickest growing water sport, bodyboarding. From Port Macquarie, Michael conquered the best in the water to win the World Bodyboarding Championship. The winner of this year's NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year Award will be announced during a live telecast on January the 22nd.
Japan's demand for Australian coal is expected to fall because of the country's predicted slump in steelmaking, according to officials from Kawasaki and Kobe steel companies. 60% of the Hunter's coal is exported to Japan. However, only 15% is used in steelmaking.
We expect the impact to be relatively small on the Hunter.
Most affected will be Canada, the United States and Queensland, according to Philip Hughes from Port Waratah Coal Services. Those areas supply a much larger percentage of their coal to Japan for steelmaking.
It appears that there has been a downturn in Japanese steel production, principally due to the downturn in the Japanese economy.
Meanwhile, Mr Hughes says the Hunter has experienced a growth in coal exports to other steel-producing countries in Asia, such as Korea and Taiwan. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Chris Feiler is a former winner of the NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year and again has performed brilliantly to be chosen as a finalist this year. Chris represented Australia at the Pan Pacific Games after winning 2 gold medals at the Aussie Short Course Championships in the 100 and 200 metre freestyle. At the Pan Pacs in Japan, Chris grabbed a silver in the 100 metre freestyle. Craig Miller from Tamworth is a member of the Australian men's water polo team that stole the limelight at this year's World Championships. This was the first time a national team was in the medals at such a title, and Craig and his teammates defied all the odds to win a bronze medal, a great achievement for a youngster and a team that is not one of the high-profile sports in Australia. Tomorrow we take a look at the two remaining finalists in this year's NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year Award, which will be telecast live on January the 22nd. Sam Legutza of Cam's Wharf was the 1991 New South Wales Lawn Bowler of the Year, and this year has built on that accolade. Representing his country for the first time, Sam came home from Canada with a swag of gold medals. Sam was leading the successful fours team, backed up to win gold in the triples, and the Australian team won a gold for the best performed team at the Pacific Games. Byron Bay's Pauline Mensah has overcome hardship to be crowned the best in her sport of surfing. Suffering from arthritis from an early age, Pauline shifted to the far north coast, and the rest is history. 3 victories and many minor placings, and a spot in the final of the last event in Hawaii saw Pauline clinch the Women's World Surfing Championship for 1993. Shelley Andrews has cemented a permanent place in the Australian women's hockey team, and this year she has played in the series against Korea, was a major influence in the Aussie girls winning the Champions Trophy, and then was brilliant against England in the 3-Test series. The winner of the 15th NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year Award will be announced during a live telecast tomorrow night at 9:30.
In full training gear, they make one of the funniest sights you might ever see amongst the shopping trolleys or an empty racetrack. But for the Australian 4-man bobsled team, it's deadly serious. With a lack of ice tracks in Australia, they have to rely on perfecting their teamwork on the bitumen. A regime that made their competitors originally laugh, but sit up and take notice when the Aussies finished 8th at the World Championships.
To get the results that we're getting off the style of training that we're doing in the car parks and so forth, I think people have a new respect for us.
Most athletes go to the Games with unrealistic dreams of medals. The Australian team, though, are approaching Lillehammer with very level heads.
Considering our best result ever in history is 8th, which we've just had, a result in the top 10 would be unbelievable, and a result in the top 20 would still be very credible.
With the Australian team spread over 4 different states, physical fitness has been left to each of them. Newcastle's Glenn Carroll has taken 5 months unpaid leave from his job so he can keep up the gym work.
My last session was yesterday, where I was very happy with the weights I was lifting. My strength is far above what it has been in the past, and my speed is now upwards of my best. So I'm very excited to get it back on the ice again.
Newcastle's Roger White will also compete at Lillehammer in the luge. NBN's coverage of the Games begins on February 13. Darren Curtis, NBN News.
Street violence and vandalism have dogged Moree residents for months. It's a problem the community is struggling to overcome, staging a public meeting last year in a bid to find a solution. On arriving at Moree Police Station this morning, Commissioner Lauer praised the meeting as a catalyst for change.
The problems are not problems the police can solve alone. They need to work with the community, and there needs to be commitment. And I think a recognising of that the responsibility rests with the whole community, not just with the police.
Even so, Mr Lauer today promised an ongoing review of police operations.
And we've reviewed today the police work here with the District Commander and the Patrol Commander, and we'll continue to do that.
The Commissioner believes a number of initiatives may ease the crime rate, including a new program for young offenders, possibly based in the Warrumbungles near Coonabarabran.
The District Commander is sending some officers to South Australia to look at a wilderness program for young offenders. We understand it's been quite successful there in that many of those that undertook the program did not reoffend again.
The Commissioner's other proposals include town planning changes to lower the crime risk in areas like Morey's Wilga Place and volunteer policing.
We're interested in introducing voluntary policing here, which involves the community again in policing and opens up our establishment to them. We also have a person that we've recently sent to Canada for some time, coming in to talk to local government and community about how we can best design out crime.